Hello all, welcome back to the BioRocks channel. In this video today we are going to learn about the functions of antidiuretic hormone. So what is diuretic? Diuretic is something which is going to deal with the urine. This is acting against. So it's nothing but antidiuretic hormone is going to reduce your urine, okay? It's going to actually reduce your urine production. And remember children, the antidiuretic hormone is been otherwise called as vasopressin. Vasopressin. As we have already learned that the posterior lobe of your posterior lobe of your pituitary gland pituitary gland is going to actually receive the axons from the hypothalamus, right? It's going to receive axons from hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. And we have seen that there is a special area in the hypothalamus which was being called as paraventricular nucleus. Ventricular nucleus, which had two types of neurons. Okay, one was the one which was acting for the osmoregulatory reflexes, osmoregulatory reflex center. One was okay, and the other set of neurons were for the parturition and milk flow milk flow reflex center, if you remember. Okay, so we see that these neurons from the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus are extending their axons. They are axons to the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, due to which what happens is whenever these are going to be excited, when the osmoregulatory reflex center is going to be activated, what happens is these neurons through their axons are going to pour up their neurotransmitters here, neurotransmitter. And this neurotransmitter, which is called when your what do you call as osmoregulatory reflex center is activated, it's going to be your antidiuretic hormone, or what we call as vasopressin. And we even call this vasopressin as Rg9 vasopressin. Rg9 vasopressin. So remember, children, it's nothing but a protein, right? A hormone is nothing but a protein made up of the amino acids. Okay. So remember that the basic difference between oxytocin, oxytocin, as well as the vasopressin. Vasopressin. You know that these are the two of the neurotransmitters poured by the axons from the hypothalamus, okay, into the posterior lobe. Okay, they are poured into the posterior lobe through what? Through the synaptic knobs, axons of your hypothalamus. You know this. So remember that these are the two neurotransmitters which are dropped into the posterior lobe, through which they are released into the blood. So if you look at this protein and this protein, the basic difference is in the place of leucine amino acid, vasopressin is made up of another amino acid which is being called as Rg9. If you're going to look at the amino acids which are making up this particular protein, which is being called as vasopressin, it is going to have a Rg9 as one of the amino acids, but in the same location, instead of Rg9, they are going to have leucine, and that makes it as oxytocin. See how surprising is that? One replacement of one amino acid has completely changed the functionality of this particular hormone, which is being called as vasopressin. If it has leucine, it is going to act on the uterus, and it is going to act on the mammary glands. But if it is going to have arginine, arginine amino acid in the place of leucine, it becomes vasopressin, which is going to act on the kidney tubules, kidneys. Okay, this makes a huge difference. One amino acid is making a huge difference. So remember, children, I told you that when you're going to intake excessive salt, what happens is you feel more thirsty, right? You feel more thirsty. So what is happening here? Let us see what is happening here. See, when the salt intake is going to be increased, now what happens is this salt intake increase is going to increase the tonicity of your extracellular fluids, of your extracellular fluid. If the tonicity is going to increase, so what do we call this fluid as now? Hypertonic solution or hypertonic fluid. So now your extracellular fluid has become completely what we call as hypertonic. So now what happens if your cells, we all know that if your cells are going to be placed in a hypertonic solution, then what happens? The water moves out and your cells are going to shrink. They are going to collapse. Okay, so this is going to be not good for a normal health condition. So what we need to do is now we have only one particular option for us to return it back to isotonic conditions where the tonicity is 300 milliosmoles. We need to maintain this normal osmolarity. Okay, this is our target. So now, since because you have increased your salt intake, now the tonicity is increasing. So what happens now is the osmoreceptors, which are also the sensory neurons. Okay, sensory neurons. These receptors, what they do is now they are detecting, these are detecting the hypertonicity, detecting the hypertonicity of your extracellular fluid. So now what happens is these osmoreceptors are going to now signal, they are going to signal now whom, they are going to signal your hypothalamus. They are going to signal hypothalamus and especially to the osmoregulatory reflex center, to this particular center. So now what happens is immediately your hypothalamus is going to now is getting signals. So the osmoregulatory reflex centers are being activated. So these are going to be activated, and now what they do is they start releasing a neurotransmitter which is being called as antidiuretic hormone. Okay, and this antidiuretic hormone now is going to get released into the blood plasma. Okay, the moment it is going, the moment your ADH is going to be released into your blood plasma, what happens is this reaches your kidney. This reaches your kidney. And you know that your distal convoluted tubule, as well as your collecting duct. These both are having the receptors. Which receptors? ADH receptors. So now they reach here and they get locked up with the receptors, and now they start their function. And their function is going to be, first of all, you start feeling, see, once the ADH release, you start first of all feeling thirst, due to which you are going to drink enough water. If you are drinking enough water, now what happens, children? Your hypertonic extracellular fluid is getting what? Diluted. But you should not excrete that water as urine. So now what happens is your kidneys are going to, your kidneys are going to do one task, that is going to be they start retaining the water once the ADH comes into the receptors. So they start retaining the water. And now what happens is, even under the action of the antidiuretic hormone, your sweating rate is going to be reduced. This is also going to happen. The first thing is, as a hypotonicity has increased, the regular reflex center is stimulated, you started feeling thirst, you're drinking water, but you're not excreting it because you have stimulated the what you call is distal convoluted tubule, as well as collecting duct receptors are acting. That is, ADH is acting on these receptors, they form a complex, and now they're going to act in retaining the water. So no more you are increasing the what you call is water in the urine. So now your urine is going to be more concentrated and the water is retained into the plasma. Okay, so you are going to pass the concentrated urine and you're going to decrease the sweating, as well as a function of the antidiuretic hormone is to increase the arterial blood pressure, by doing vasoconstriction, by doing the vasoconstriction process. So these are all the activities of your antidiuretic hormone, children. So what I'll do now is, let me show you a few of these what we call as slides, which are going to show you how these are being acting upon. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. But remember, children, this is antidiuretic hormone is getting produced by these neurons only when the hypertonic conditions prevail. Okay, but once if it is going to be hypertonic to the normal conditions coming back, then what happens is ADH production is going to be inhibited. It is a negative feedback. Okay, once the water levels in the plasma are raising, they are going to give an indication due to which the inhibition of the antidiuretic hormone secretion is going to happen. So now you can see that the antidiuretic hormone is produced by hypothalamus into the posterior lobe. Then it goes into the plasma, and there it is going to increase ADH is going to absorb more water. So you pass a concentrated urine, and usually it is acting on the distal tube as well as a collecting duct. And the other thing what I'll show you is the cells here, children. If you remember, while I was making the videos for the excretory as excretion osmoregulation, I have shown you such a slide once, if you remember. So these are the cells which are lining your distal tubule or the collecting duct, which we are going to call. Okay, you can see that these are the cells, and this is a lumen. Okay, and you can see that here we are going to have these ADH receptors. So in the plasma, whichever the ADH is getting released through your what we call as a posterior lobe enters through the plasma into the ADH receptors, and then it is going to start up your water retention process, thereby producing the concentrated urine. I hope, children, you have understood the function of this ADH hormone. If you like this video, please do hit the like button, and try to share this channel with many others, and try to subscribe my channel. Okay, and I expect that you all have understood this. In the forthcoming videos, we'll be making some other endocrine hormones. Okay. Thank you all.